All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown. All three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing the great adventure novel by Wilbur Smith, A Falcon Flies. This book came out in 1980. It is book number 1 in the 4-volume Ballantine series by Wilbur Smith. Now, Wilbur Smith writes a lot of action and adventure novels, mostly centered around Africa and England and things like that, and the relationship between those two countries. In fact, I've got all the Wilbur Smith books down here, and so we'll pan through the massive library, and I'll go down. They're all on one of the bottom shelves here, but that's my entire Wilbur Smith collection right there. And one of these days, maybe I will do a video of my Wilbur Smith collection and show you all the books. But for today, we're reviewing A Falcon Flies. Action adventure. That's what Wilbur Smith does. Family drama wrapped in action adventure stories set in Africa, or set in the oceans that surround Africa, or between Africa and England and the Mediterranean and South Africa, the Atlantic Ocean. It's everywhere. Okay, 1860 is when this book is set. Our main character is Robin Ballantine. She is a young 23-year-old woman. She posed in England. She had to pose as a man to get into med school because they didn't allow women back then. So she posed as a man to get into med school. So she's very independent, very she can do things for herself. She's a very forward-thinking woman, and now she is on this ship with this guy named let's see, what was his name? Captain Mungo St. John. Now, Mungo St. John is this muscular hunk of a ship captain, and he is described in intimate detail. So, we talk about when men write books and they describe women, it's all about body parts, this, that, and the other, and everybody kind of laughs and get a chuckle. Well, Wilbur Smith does his fair amount of that too. But when he describes his good-looking men, he almost goes above and beyond the Call of Duty. He almost makes it, everything about this muscular hunk, Captain Mungo St. John, is described in detail. Now, the thing is Robin is sort of, they're on this ship together and they're going down to Africa, and she's kind of falling for this. This guy is a bad guy. Mungo St. John is a bad guy. He's a bad dude. He's a slave trader. And her father, the reason that she is on the ship, she is on the ship with her brother Morris, and Morris is 27. He's like he's kind of an adventurer. He's kind of he's kind of a bad boy himself. And he gets along with this Mungo St. John. But there's a problem with Mungo St. John, this hunk, this person that Robin is falling for. He is a slave trader, and he's an evil guy. He's just a bad dude, but he's a good-looking dude, and he's very charismatic, and he's a slave trader. The thing is, Robin and her brother Morris are on Mungo's ship going to South Africa because they are in search of their father. Now, their father, Fuller Ballantine, he's an anti-slaver. He was anti-slavery. He is down in Africa trying to free slaves, trying to save slaves, trying to stop the slave trade itself. So the whole family is kind of like anti-slavery, but yet they're on this slaver ship going to Africa, so they want to go find, and everything about Mungo St. John, Robin hates. She hates, but she cannot resist because he's such a hunk. So what will she do? Will she fall in love with the very type of douchebag that she hates? But he's good looking. He is like romance novel cover good looking type of hunk. Or will she stick to her morals and be like, no, this guy's a bad dude, I'm not. And so that's a moral dilemma. What will her mind and her words say one thing, but what will her actions be? Will she get with Mungo St. John, the evil, good-looking slave trader? We shall see. There's also another character that's pretty integral to the plot, Tippo. he is one of the shipmates. He's an Arab. He's one of the people that work for Mungo St. John slaver ship. But this is a bloody good adventure, because once they reach Africa, the different groups that are on the ship sort of get scattered throughout Africa, and they're all on their separate adventures. And just the descriptions that Wilbur Smith gives of the slave trade and the slave ship itself, and how dangerous it was just to be a person on the slave ship, especially if you were one of the slaves living down in these cramped holes. It's just shocking to read about. It's absolutely shocking to read about how awful of a thing this was. And once they get into Africa and they're adventuring through Africa and seeing all of that they see, I mean, it's your typical African adventure with, there's waterfalls, mountains, jungle, disease, lions and tigers and bears. No, there's no bears, but you know what I'm saying. And just stuff always out to kill them. Africa just it wants to kill anybody that's walking around through it, just whether it's Mother Nature herself or the animals or the other people that you run into. And then they run into a ruins of one of the cool parts is when they come to a city, like an old abandoned city that's in ruins, like ghastly ruined city. It's just like covered in ivory and the rock. I mean, you can just picture it. Well, Wilbur Smith does a much better job of describing it than I just did. But this is the basis of the plot. This is basically what's happening. Brother and sister trying to find their father, who's an anti-slavery person who's out there trying to stop the slave trade. They have to use an actual slave ship and slave trader captain to get to their father, which puts them all into a moral conundrum, especially because he's so cool. Like, the older brother likes the guy because the guy is a super competent adventurer and a manly, masculine, muscle-bound dude and can hold himself well in the jungles. So the brother likes him, the girl likes him, sister likes him because he's just looking, but he's not a good guy. Anyway, it's a good adventure novel. I mean, Wilbur Smith is known for writing just great. All of his adventure novels are kind of got the same, not the same. I mean, they're all different, but they all end up in Africa in just adventure. That's about all I can say about it. I mean, I could read the back. Let's see. In 1860, a man and a woman approached the coast of Africa aboard a swift clipper. Robin Ballantyne and her brother Morris have waited years for this moment, to return to Africa to search for their missionary father who had disappeared somewhere in the wilderness. Traveling north from Cape Town, they follow a map left by a madman into uncharted world of waterfalls and jungles and everything else. Anyway, uncovering their father's trail, Robin and her brother find themselves in the midst of the slave trade that pours out of Africa like a bloody wound. And that is pretty much the theme of the book, is just how awful the slave trade was. And how even the best of people with the most noble intentions, what do their actions really say about them? Even though their words say one thing, what do they really do when their passions, when their lusts? You know what I'm saying? Dynamite book. I give this a 9.5 out of 10. It is a good adventure story.